Hello, and welcome to Talk to Tony Wilson. Well, if you're watching today, then I know you've made it through another Christmas, the Christmas of 2020.
Mhm.
I know it may not have been a happy occasion for everyone, but just know if you're able to watch my video today, you are blessed. Well, today I'm going to continue a conversation with Jaquana. We talked to her last week, and we're doing a series on her. She's going to be discussing some of the conversation, something that happened along a conversation that me and her had over the phone. I had called her just to talk because we hadn't talked in a while, and we was on the phone for about an hour and a half. But with Jaquana, with her going through the COVID, she's just going to share some of the information that happened with her a little bit before our conversations, maybe something during it, and what she had to do after our telephone conversation. So, Jaquana, welcome to the show again today. And how are you doing?
Today's a good day. um, I did have to go back to the hospital again, but I'm glad I went because I'm much, much better today.
Good. Okay. So remember that conversation me and you had where, like I said, we hadn't talked in a while and we was on the phone for like an hour and a half.
Yes.
I know you hung up kind of abruptly. It kind of concerned me, but I just let it go. But then you sent me a text message later on. I think it was the next day. And that was shocking. Can you share some of that story surrounding that?
Yes. The Friday before you and I spoke, I had gone to get tested for COVID. And my results came back on Monday that I was positive.
Mm.
And so my husband had tested positive prior to me getting my test, and that's why I went and got tested. So when you and I talked, it had been a week of me, a week after me being positive. So I had spent that week prior to us talking, just trying to take care of myself and do all the things that they say you're supposed to do. And we can get into details about that, but it was our conversation that that me being tired from our conversation is what actually made me realize I needed to go and get medical help after a week of trying to take care of myself.
So what kind of symptoms were you having? Like I say, 'cause I didn't realize that on the phone, or I would not have talked to you for an hour and a half. I would let you go. But what kind of symptoms were you having?
Well, I started out, um, as we said on our previous broadcast when you and I were talking, the first week that I had COVID, I actually ignored all my symptoms. I wasn't paying any attention to feeling extremely tired and the body aches. All these different symptoms were coming and going. And then, but like I said, my husband had tested positive. And I finally got my test on the Friday. By that time, over the weekend, I started having nasal drainage, really, really heavy nasal drainage. And that's when I knew something was definitely not right because even though I had sort of lied to myself the whole week saying that all these other symptoms were nothing, I knew that I did not have allergies. And everybody always says, oh, that's, you got a runny nose, it's allergies. I've never had allergies in my entire life. So before even getting my results on Monday, I knew something definitely was not right. Burning eyes, runny nose, and then I finally spiked 99.4 temp. I never hit the 100.4 that everybody always talks about because I was taking cold medicine and that sort of thing. So, so yeah, that's it's another um, one of those symptoms. But that one I did not ignore. And like I said, on Monday, they called me and my test was positive.
So after we got off the phone for like say that hour and a half, and I think you told me you lay down on the couch, but then the next day, can you share with us what happened the next day?
Yes. So what happened? Okay, I'm gonna go back just a little bit. So after I started, really starting to get more sick, I started paying more attention, and I had purchased a pulse oximeter.
Mhm.
Um, this is a pulse ox. I had purchased it for my husband because like I said, he was sick, before me. And so I started using it myself. And so Wednesday is when I thought, okay, I'm starting to feel winded when I would go, up and down stairs in our house. And so normally, on a pulse ox, you should have like 98% oxygen. And on Wednesday, it was like 85%. And so, I mentioned it to my husband and we're like, oh, okay, well, let's keep an eye on it. And then Thursday, it wasn't registering. And I thought, okay, maybe it's broke. This thing is cheap. Um, and then it was Friday is when you and I had our conversation on the phone. And like I said, I started getting winded on Wednesday from walking up and down the steps. Friday, you and I talked hour and a half, and I couldn't complete the conversation because I was completely wiped out from talking and hung up and literally passed out on the sofa and didn't wake up until the next day. And I told my husband, I need to get to the hospital. And thank God I did because when I got there, my oxygen level was in the 70s, the low 70s. But the story to the hospital, Tony, was a pretty scary one.
Can, can you share with us how you felt and what was going on during that time to get right to the hospital?
Um, I can't believe that by the time he was taking me to the hospital, I was so oxygen deprived. I was literally holding my head out the window. Um, and I felt like I could just eat the air. I was like throwing air into my face. The wind as we were driving, um, I had my head out the window and just pulling air into my mouth. Um, it was it was not good.
So when you got to the hospital, did they have to come to the car to get you? How did that go?
Well, what happened by the time we got there, I had kind of gotten myself stable, which is, you know, um, I wasn't monitored. I don't know what, my oxygen, I didn't have it with me, but uh, the lightheadedness had gone away. It wasn't as bad, but I still kind of felt kind of woozy. I still felt winded, but you cannot, nobody can go into the hospital with you. Once you tell them you tested positive for COVID, that's it. So I had to walk in by myself. Um, and so when I got to the front desk, yes, I again had become so winded until where and confused. I wasn't able to really tell her my name and I was really confused as to why I was even there. So they did, the nurse came out from behind the desk because I kept asking to just sit down. Because I felt like I was about to pass out. And then that's when she put the pulse ox on my finger, and it was in the low 70s.
So how did the hospital staff kind of react to you? Did Were there people waiting? Did you have to go wait in another room until time for you to get treatment, or were you able to go straight back? What happened there?
Well, that's one thing that I really, really, really wanted people to understand when they watch this video is, the fear of going to the doctor, or rather going to the hospital. Um, it's all over the news. They're just saying how crowded the hospitals are and all these long waits, and so, you're thinking, this is going to be the worst situation. I'm not going to leave. They're showing people on ventilators, and you're so afraid to go. And then you also think, if I go, will I be able to afford it? I don't want to have to put my family through that expense. But there was nobody there, Tony. I was the only person in the waiting room.
Wow.
So go.
Yes.
Don't let the news frighten you. Go. I went early. Did go because, like I said, the next morning I immediately told my husband I've got to go to the hospital. So I don't know if it was because of the time of day that I went,
Mm-hmm.
but I was the only one, and they literally, when they saw I was about to, fall back, they threw me in a wheelchair and they took me right back right away. And there wasn't a lot of people lying all around on stretchers, and it wasn't it wasn't that at all. So I was fortunate. Now I know that there are hospitals, and California is having issues, and that where places are maxed out. But at the same time too, if you don't go and get the help and go early, you don't know if you can get the help. Don't be afraid.
Right. Right. Take that chance and go on to the hospital.
Yes.
Don't just wait at home because, like DeQuan said, if she had waited at home with her oxygen level going as low as it had been, it may not have been good for her. She may not be able to be on this show with us and explaining to us and giving us her story. So, go. Don't be afraid to go. Go check on it. You know it's not right. Okay. So, DeQuan, so while you were at the hospital, did you have to stay, or did they just do a breathing treatment and send you home? What happened from there?
I did. They did wind up admitting me,
Okay.
and I was diagnosed with let me see if I can get it right, hypoxia with ambulation,
Okay.
um, due to um, mild pneumonia, mild COVID related pneumonia.
Okay.
So basically, what I was dealing with was my oxygen levels dropping when I was doing some type of activity, whether it was talking or walking around, what have you. And it wasn't until I got to the hospital that I realized that I even had pneumonia. So if I had not gone, I don't know what direction that pneumonia would have gone in, but it was mild pneumonia. And they were able to see that with a CT scan with contrast.
So from when you got your diagnosis, was that the second time you were told you had mild pneumonia, or was that the first time?
No, that was the first
The first
time I went to the hospital. That was the first time I went to the hospital, and I did stay overnight because they were concerned with that my oxygen level kept dropping.
time.
Um, and so they wanted to make sure that either I was going to go home with oxygen, or they were trying to get me stable so that I could, go home without the oxygen. So I was able to, after a night stay, um, I was able to bounce back. And so they sent me home and I didn't have to have the oxygen.
Okay. So you were sent home. You felt better. Were you sent home on any prescription medicines or anything like that, or told to follow up at any time?
So as I said in the first video that you and I did, I didn't have a provider at the time. So that's the good thing that came out of that visit is I did get a doctor's referral. And so I was able to follow up with my doctor. And I was able to finally establish a relationship with a provider once I got home. So when they discharged me, though, they didn't discharge me with any medicine. They only discharged me home with cough medicine. And when I spoke to my provider, she was concerned about that, why they didn't send me home with more. Um, But while I was at the hospital, I did get 1 dose of dexamethasone, um, which is, a steroid that's targeted to your lungs.
Mhm.
And so, yes, I did feel better at the time. Um, I did. That did make me feel better.
Okay, so that kind of takes care of week 2. Is that correct? Did we
Yeah,
get something?
I think that's about it. And
Week 2.
yeah, other than me staying at home and doctoring on myself for that whole week before I talked to you.
Uh,
Yeah,
I know as nurses, that's what we do. We take care of other people, so we try to take care of ourselves too before we go to the doctor. But like we said just a few minutes ago, when you know something is not right, just go to your medical provider. And if you have to go to the emergency room to find out what it is, go ahead and do that. Don't be afraid to go. Because if you're afraid they're going to find something, then you know you're probably in trouble already. So let's go find it. And the earlier you find it, the better chances you have of taking care of it. So yeah,
exactly.
let's get to those providers when we know something's not right. Okay.
Exactly. I would say that Wednesday, I should have probably gone to the hospital. And everybody uses the term shortness of breath, and it what I was experiencing, I didn't think was shortness of breath. I kept saying I'm winded.
Mhm.
Um, whatever they call it, whatever you call it, just go. It doesn't have to be, all these medical terms that they'll throw out at you.
Right.
Really explain how you're feeling and that it's not normal, and get it checked out.
Right.
So
Explain
that,
it in the way that how you feel it. Like you said, it doesn't matter if you know the medical term of it or not. Explain it how you feel it. And the medical people, they'll kind of figure out what you're talking about.
so
Okay.
that brings me to another point of being advocates for your for yourself.
Right.
Because as I said before, as COVID patients aren't able to have people to come into the hospital with them. And if you already have a fear of hospitals, then definitely being in, staying overnight or however long you have to stay with no help, um, is double frightening. So, as Tony and I were just saying, there is no dumb question. Um, Everybody seems rushed. People really are standoffish because you do have COVID, so they are barely coming into the room because they're afraid to get it. But make people stop and take time and explain things, explain the medications that they're giving to you. Don't let people give you something and you have no idea what the side effects are. You have no idea, what why they're giving it to you. What is this going to make me feel like? Um, because I've had, the steroids that have made me feel shaky and jittery and nervous. But, the nurse that came in and was explaining everything to me, she was really, really good at taking her time, stopping and saying, this is what you should expect. It can run up your blood sugar. So don't, try to avoid sweets, so forth and so on. Um, and not all nurses are like that. I had both because I did have another one who told me to Google the information, Tony. I couldn't believe it. She said, just Google it. So they're all kinds, they're all types for whatever reason. Persist, demand, stand up for yourself. And it's hard because you're sick and you're lightheaded, and you're confused, but you still have to push through. You still have to push through and get the answers that you deserve to have.
Remember, it's your body. You have a right to know what somebody's giving you. You have a right to ask and you have a right to know. Right. Okay. So after week 2, and now you're going into week 3, had you had any more symptoms, or did that one hospitalization, did that kind of help correct everything?
Well, I mean, fast forward. Today is December 27th, and I did have to go back to the hospital on Christmas Eve because I was again, having extreme shortness of breath, um, palpitations. My heart was beating so hard and so fast and so strong. My whole body was shaking, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And I kept saying, "Oh, it's Christmas Eve. I hate to." We were going to do a Zoom meeting with my family, and I thought I hate to ruin that. But at the same time, too, I was struggling. So I did go back to the hospital on Christmas Eve, and I'm glad that I did because today for sure I feel even better than when I went to the hospital the first time.
So what was different from the first visit to now? Did they treat you as far as medically any different from the first time?
Two different hospitals, and it's really interesting. Two different hospitals, two totally different practices seemed like. The first hospital was wanting me to be on fluid restrictions and even gave me Lasix. And the second hospital, well, I went in and they immediately gave me fluids. In the emergency room, I was given fluids. So, I know that COVID is new. Nobody understands. I feel like everybody's guessing. Everybody's taking a stab at, let's try this, let's try that. Because why wouldn't you have the same care from one place to the next? But anyway, this time I was given an inhaler. And so I actually, this time, had a respiratory therapist to come to my room when I was in the emergency room and explain to me, what my lungs were doing and what all was going on. And I did get another dose of dexamethasone. So I felt like they took more time with me and they explained things better. And in time I did that inhaler, my lungs and everything just relaxed. And that made all the difference in the world. And so they did discharge me. I didn't have to stay overnight. And so, like I said, that was on Christmas Eve. And so now when I'm in the house and I start feeling that tightness, and I'll say I haven't had any more, my heart pounding, that hasn't happened again at all, which has been, and it's only been 3 days, but um, I feel like this is more manageable now. So even if you go and they send you back home, go again.
Yes. If you need them, go back.
Yes.
Like I say, that's what they're for. And I didn't know, Jaquan, that you went to a different hospital, but if you have to go to a different hospital, do that because that's what they're for. And yeah, it is sad though that it's not like a standard of how we can take care of COVID-19 patients because it is so new. I guess they'll be developing a protocol for it, but with this being so new, different ones are just doing different things. And I think they're still kind of sort of treating the symptoms as best they can. So that, it's all a learning curve. But like I said, please, if you have any symptoms, don't just stay home and try to treat it like one of us nurses would, treat ourselves. Just go get some cold medicine and call it a day. No, let's get some more medical attention. It may be something that over-the-counter medicine may not be able to treat. Like the dexamethasone, it's a steroid that Jaquan is talking about. And that's not something you can get over the counter.
No.
So yeah, be an advocate for yourself, for sure.
Yeah. Two totally different situations. My husband, over the counter medicines, went back to work 2 weeks later. Me, pneumonia. So, mild pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody, it's something different. And you just get the help, go get the care, find out, what's going on, take care of yourself because everybody's situation is totally different.
Everyone. And don't I know there's a lot of people that use YouTube, Facebook, and Google to try to find methods of preventing COVID, which I don't know that there's an actual 100% preventative measure, but combine some of the things that we're telling you. Yes, you can use your vitamins and your minerals and go out in the sun, but also you still have to protect yourself by keeping your mask on, keeping your distance, washing your hands, being clean at home. Do all those things. From what we're seeing now, this COVID-19, it is a serious pandemic. It is harming a lot of people. We still have continuous deaths from it. It is sad. So y'all, please just pay attention to, like I said, like people like Jaquana that has gone through this. Learn from what she's already done. Don't have to get into it to figure it out. Learn from her. Okay. So Jaquana, is there anything else you'd like to add to this segment here?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so y'all, you've heard from Jaquana, and we're going to continue following her journey through her recovery mode of this COVID-19. But it is very interesting, and I'd like to know for myself, what happens from week to week, with someone that is trying to recover. So just keep tuning in, and if Jaquana is finished for now, and this will conclude another Talk to Tony Woodson. So to all I will say is have a great day.